Last time out, Lawrence Arabian showed perfect form by dominating at Lime Rock Park to start the new campaign. With the strong start for the 2021 Season 3 competitor, it brings the question of can he dominate 2 rounds in a row to start Season 4? Today is ready to bring a new set of challenges, however, as we travel south to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for the second race of the Formula V Weekend Warriors season, and you'll see it live, all here on Global SimRacing Channel. Hello everyone, my name is Justin Prince. Along with me in the booth today is Robert O'Brien. Behind the scenes is our director Joe Peak, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beer. Now, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta is not the easiest track to conquer with its high speeds and elevation changes, especially when you consider the Formula V and its dynamics. Let's head over to our GSRC track guide to learn a little bit more about the circuit.
Welcome to Road Atlanta, the scene of incredible sports car racing for decades and the home to the Petit Le Mans. This is a track that has proven itself to be worthy of attention on a world stage. With it being situated only an hour northeast of Atlanta, Georgia, the circuit is in a prime location. But despite its flagship race, in contrast to the real Le Mans, the full course is a measly 2.5 miles long. The club layouts also clock in at just under 2 miles. Packed within this small lap length is a series of technical and challenging corners, some of which can be race-ending even when small mistakes are made. Turn 1 is a fast sweeper which compresses the car into the track, but the high speeds mean that when you go off, you typically go off in a big way. Turn 3 is notorious for its curved entry into a blind apex. Too far inside and you face a cut course penalty. Too far outside and you're likely to spin out. Then there's the unassuming Turn 5. The wide curving lures you into getting greedy, but the close walls on either side gobble up cars and spit them out as a crumpled heap. With all the tricky fast turns, that's not to say that there aren't passing opportunities. The main one comes at the chicane at the bottom of the backstretch. The huge downhill drop into the turn makes outbraking yourself quite easy though, so be careful. The whole thing wraps up with the frightening final corner. With nothing but a giant wall right to the outside as cars fly through at high speed, it's not often that wrecks are small. Boasting a wide swath of series over its history, everything from NASCAR to Indy Lights and of course IMSA, the main use of the track is SCCA events and driving schools. No wonder this place is popular both in real life and here on the iRacing service. Fans will no doubt get to enjoy many more years of action at this incredible track.
That was a look at your GSRC track guide for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Now, let's bring my broadcast partner for today in Robert O'Brien. And Road Atlanta has been a fan favorite. I know it's an iRacing staffer's favorite for some in particular. But today could bring some intriguing challenges in turn for the Formula V, you'd have to think, Robert.
Absolutely. The turn 1 into 2 and 3 is going to be quite compact for these cars. They're going to be quite close together on that lap 1. They're going to be exceptionally busy wheeling the wheels around, especially through the S's onto 5. Where it's really going to be difficult for people is the run from 7 to 10. That slipstream battle is going to be absolutely bonanzas, and we're going to have to be very careful to see if anybody's going to try and take 10A on the inside or even on the outside, trying to get the inside turned into 10B. 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers in length. It is going to be 12 turns of absolute drafting and trying to keep corners nice and tight.
I'm very intrigued on how these drivers will attack this racetrack today, to say the very least, when it comes to the Weekend Warriors. Now, the title sponsor for this series is 42 Stitches. 42 Stitches offers custom embroidery and full-color heat transfer. Put your logo on shirts, hats, jackets, and anything else you can imagine to promote your business or organization. They have also just recently expanded their capabilities into vinyl graphics. Put your company logo on your vehicles, create signage, or you can hand out stickers to potential customers to create brand awareness. Check them out at 42stitches.com and let them put together a package especially for you. With that, After the first round, the championship is pretty intriguing so far in turn because, in part, Lawrence Arabian ran away by more than 14 seconds at the checkered flag. In turn, for the S1 standings, he has a 20-point advantage over Thomas Renders. Niels Sinkowski is 27 points back, then Stefani and Gaspers rounds out the top 5 in the point standings. 105 points separates the S1 standings entering the second race of the campaign.
In the S2s, we're going to have Johan Betenga leading the way with Frederic Richtig in second, Jeremy Lewis and Jesus Rodriguez in third and fourth, respectively, with Ian Gibson following up behind. But there is actually a very subtle difference in points between all 5 of them, so with the early doors, it is still possible to get to the lead.
The interesting thing, though, about last round is second place overall went to a Masters driver, and Antonio Rees with 91 total points after the round. Thomas Gradwell, second overall in the Masters standings, 39 points back. Jeff Cantor, Leroy Coppage, and Kurt Nunez round out the top 5. That separation, 66 total points. But with that, let's take a look at the race details for today as we get ready for what's expected to be an entertaining round here at Road Atlanta.
We're going to have a 40-minute race here at Road Atlanta. They're going to have a limited stop for one fuel stop. Open setup, though. So they'll have at least the chance to tweak it to their liking. And, you know, these guys tend to share setups around. Nobody's left too far behind. And they do have at least one fast repair. So they have a spare car ready for them if they have a mishap and they're able to get back going again straight away.
Now, drivers, keep in mind, are completing open qualifying. They've had the past 30 minutes to set their fastest qualifying times, and no shocker, Florence Arabian setting the fastest time overall in the session, a 1:43.2. That is 2.5 tenths of a second, Robert, quicker than the 64 machine of Miro Izatsky. That separated by just 2 100ths.
Miro Haraski absolutely gunning it on his last lap, but he just wasn't able to upset Florence Arabian. Florence has just been... He went on the last championship on a high, and then he's just gunning it. He started off essentially at 100 and is just putting the throttle down faster and faster. Antonio Rees, by the way, still making good on last week. He's putting in a very fast lap. We're just seeing Flavio Andola. He's not going to do another lap. And then Rocco Horvath is the next S1 contender, and he's about 0.3 of a second back.
Now, for those watching for the first time this season, to clarify, when it comes to classes, how it works is you have essentially the S1, which involves the 3,000 plus I rating, the AMs, which are the numbers 200 through 899, your tickers, which would be the 3,000 and below mark. Masters is 900 plus number-wise. That's anyone more than 60 years old. So for some of these drivers, that's very impressive in terms of what we're seeing output-wise and improvement-wise compared to past seasons, to say the very least, especially with some of the Masters drivers looking like they may have a chance today, based on this track's dynamics, to possibly battle for the overall win.
Oh, Antonio Rees, if you want to look out for, he's always been quick. Just had a few upsets in the Season 1 of the Weekend Warriors, but Season 2... he's already shown off to have a great start, so he could be the one to look out for if it so happens.
Drivers do have a 5-minute warm-up now attached to today's action before they head over to the race, so it gives them some extra time to get used to the track. And keep in mind, this track has some intriguing weather conditions today. The in-sim day is the current day, September 25th, 2021. It is fairly cool for southern Georgia, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. Thankfully, it's not 699 degrees. It's 88 degrees, the track temp Fahrenheit-wise. That's 31 degrees Celsius, the track temp, 21 air temp, with currently progressing sky boxes. Keep in mind, it says partly cloudy skies, but InSim has since transitioned to mostly cloudy, so there is a fair bit of cloud cover, which could affect the track temperature and the grip levels for the track today.
And with a lower temperature, it's actually a little bit better for these guys because they don't want to burn up the tires because there's no method of cooling them down. You either have to go as fast as you can and risk losing the tire under duress through temperature changes, or you need to slow down right down to calm the tires down. These aren't the kind of tires that you can just scrub heat off. They sort of retain their heat quite a lot more than normal cars there. We can see Greg coming in. If you were to have hot tires coming into 1082B, Yeah, the runoff area is going to be your new best friend because you're going to slide. The brakes are not going to work correctly. The car's going to slide, bank, and then slide you off into the runoff area.
You see some of the pit practicing coming into play, and you can see why from Greg Stefani, because when it comes to this pit entry, it is along the hillside going through turn 11, so it can be pretty tricky for some competitors. And in turn, the elevation changes make this track intriguing for some of the opportunities, whether it's the opening corner for some competitors after the start and finish line, or whether it's the major one of the day where this track has become famous for. The sends up through turns 10A and 10B, which can either end in tears, destroyed machinery, or elation.
And with our Formula B as well, being on the correct part of the perfect part of the track to discuss this as well, through the S's. It's going to be quite difficult. That rise up is going to lead into a dip down the hill and then back up again. The drivers are going to have to be very mindful. These cars have no aero, so the only thing that's keeping them on the road is the tires and the steering wheel. And you see, if you carry too much speed, you're going to have what poor Jim McGill's having, an accident.
Was going to say that's one of the major danger zones in multiple different types of cars, keep in mind, because of those rumble strips exiting turn 5 and how close the preferred line is to the edge of the grass and the sand traps at that end of the circuit. Turn 7 can also catch drivers off guard today, possibly because if you get on the power and those two quick right-handers, we've seen several major stack-ups there in different series in the past.
Oh, and it's not going to be different here because the guys are going to be wanting to get off and going as soon as possible, and they're going to be wanting to be competitive straight out of the gate. You know, the first race showed how competitive some of these guys can be, and they're not going to just give up some space. They're going to try and, you know, race against each other, of course, but they're going to try and absolutely gun it from the very start.
Now, as these drivers complete the remaining portions of their warm-up for today's race, let's take the time to take a look at your starting grid for today's race for the Weekend Warriors. As talked about, Florence Arabian set the fastest qualifying time. It was a 1:43.217, 10th quicker than his practice time, but the 64 for Hijowski just a couple tenths back with a 1:43.442. Couple 100ths quicker than Antonio Rees, who will start in row 2 and 3rd. Rocco Horvath will start in 4th today, with Thomas Renders in 5th position in the 1:43.5s in qualifying. Simon Mayer starts in 6th. Senkowski starts in 7th today, with Greg Stefani in 8th, the first of the 1:44 time bracket drivers. Tom Gradwell starts in 9th position, and then the 2:52 for Frederic will try and move on forward from the top 10 positioning.
Starting the top 20 in 11th is going to be Jim McGill with 1:44.094. In 12th is going to be Johan Batenga. He's got a lot of positions to get going with. Leroy Coppage in 13th with a 1:44.631. Fabiano Dolo in 14th. 15th is going to be Ishan Gin. 16th, David Davidson. In 17th, we're going to have the first of the 1:46s. Jeremy Lewis is going to be there. Jeff Cantor in 18th. 19th is going to be John Nielsen. And rounding out the grid itself is Russ Lundberg with a 1:48.
That's a look top to bottom at your starting grid for today's action. The warm-ups are now coming to their conclusion here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Drivers will have the next few moments to prepare their cars for today's starting grid, as the iRacing safety car has now started seeing everyone migrate their way to the starting grid down the front straightaway. And this is a full pace lap, so we'll give some time for drivers to warm up their tires, but it could also make things intriguing for the fuel itself as well, Robert, because those limited fuel tanks saving amongst this lap may become critical for some competitors if they want to try and stretch it.
Oh yeah, it's been a constant threat for all of these drivers. In Series 1 and Series 2, fuel has been the main hallmark of if you gain enough positions or if you lose some positions. We've had people make mistakes where they've underfueled, they've had to pit twice. We've had one particular example with Ian Gibson, managed to go one race with not taking a fuel stop whatsoever, and he managed to get a very good result out of it. All of these drivers are going to be thinking to themselves, slipstream, fuel saving, that's it. And you can gain a lot of positions that way.
And in turn, how do you see these drivers attacking the first corners for this start? Because it could be busy in turn. We've seen a lot of optimistic moves in the past in multiple series at this track in turn 1. Before you get to the S's, how do you try and approach this first lap in turn, knowing the possible aggressiveness?
It's going to be difficult for everybody involved. You can't necessarily judge the series is side by side more than anything else. The issue is going to be how you're going to deal with it when you get there. The main thing is you're going to try and give everyone around you enough space to navigate. These cars aren't the strongest things in the world. There's very little separating you from popping a wheel off, so it's very dangerous to try and go side by side. And in turn 1 of Road Atlanta, it's probably safer to just fall in line if you can. If you do have a leg up, make your leg up, but make the move quick and simple.
A couple drivers did not make it to the starting grid. Rocco Horvath, who was starting 4th position, did not make it in time. Will start from the pit lane. John Nielsen is not at the racetrack. So that brings us down to 18 starters for the green flag. Unfortunate for Rocco in particular, because he had a really good qualifying run, and he has already confirmed he missed it. He feels like he can still catch them.
Catching them in these cars is going to be difficult if you do not have slipstream. If he comes out at the end and he's able to make up plenty of positions in the first few laps where the gaps are still going to be tight, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be terrible. It's not going to be great, but you can at least have recovery drive. But with the track layout as it is, it's slipstream, and if he's not got the slipstream, he's not got the legs for it.
We'll have to see how he tries to recover when it comes to the S1 standings. 5th total in a, well, multi-faceted tie with 0 points after the opening race of the season at Lime Rock. But race number 2 is all set to go for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. We're glad to have you with us here on the Global SimRacing Channel for Formula V action for Weekend Warriors. Lawrence Arabian in control of the field. iRacing pace car is off. Green flag is out. We're underway from Road Atlanta.
And you can just see, I think everybody has decided to go side by side into the first turn. That is going to be Myra Haraski giving Lawrence Arabian an absolute stroping and just telling him, no, you're not having an easy race this time, chappie. We're going at it straight away. But they are coming up to turn 3, nice and neat into single file action.
Mayer and Stefani nearly made contact, it looked like, just about for 3rd, 4th, and 5th position. Antonio Reese trying to get single file as well in that line, but already Stefani up 3 positions among some of the scrapping, as everyone able to get single file, but already a little buffer between Stefani and Mayer for 4th and 5th positions. Arabian continues to hold on to the point, however. Roski backs off. Reese stays in the line, with Mayer being the caboose for the 4-car train in front.
Yep, Simon did a good start. He needs to keep it going, and he is the current lead amateur as Antonio Reese looks to put the pains to Myra Haraski, who is absolutely stuck. He's in his box, really. That's what I call the box, where you have a driver on the outside and a driver in front of you, and you can't go anywhere. You either have to let go of the gas or just try and stick to it. But Myra Haraski is fighting back against Lawrence Arabian.
Able to build up 93 miles an hour plus, now building up to nearly 100 with the hillside, heading off into the dangerous and treacherous turns 10A and 10B. Able to make it on through cleanly, though, as the top group, as everyone has compressed back together, and now end off the first lap this time, with Haraski coming away with the race lead off through that entry to 10A. Antonio Reese keeping within range of Arabian. Arabian nearly to the back end of Haraski, now goes for the lead back. He goes for the switch off through turn 1. Several cars brings puff of smoke up with those gear shifts and brake lockages. Arabian trying to keep the nose's edge off into the S's. Just about does, but Haraski gets the advantage. Arabian smartly backs off Robert.
Myra Haraski keeping it cool. He didn't want to let Lawrence Arabian go by, because Antonio Reese, he looked like he wanted a piece of the action as well. He was drowned out because 2 wide through there, you really cannot go 3 wide in any car, much less these cars, because it is essentially laser focus and no room for error. And already Forrest has fallen back 4/10 of a second. He'll have the slipstream, so he won't have to worry too much about losing Myro, but Myro has to keep an eye on his rearview mirrors all the way up from 7 to 10.
Here's a look from Racedick, who is up to 8th position, +2 off the start. Edge is also +4 right behind him, and you can see just how that distance is with the choo-choo train. And again, those puffs of smoke is something you see with the rear-world car as well with the gear shifts. It was promoted a lot when it came to the promotions by iRacing for this car. Race lead, though, is 3 wide. Antonio Reese, he's got places to be. He wants the lead.
Antonio Reese, as I said before, needs to be the one that you will look at, and already he's put the rubber stamp and sent it very, very well. Surgical move made by Antonio Reese, coming through the middle of the 3 wide, moving over to the left was the cleared Fards Arabian. A beautiful move by him, and he's from talking to him last week, he had very high confidence, and we're going to see if that bodes well for him. But here comes the Empire, it's striking back.
Rasky keeping within range once more. Arabian, Mayor, Stefani are all in their own choo-choo train. They have built up a gap of more than a second or so between themselves and Thomas Renders, who leads pack number 2. Here's the view from Stefani, back end of the train, right now running 1:45. Some of them starting to record their fastest laps for the second time. Antonio Reese did not have a valid last lap, it's worth noting. He did have it off track, but the fastest drivers who ended up in turn not having off tracks last time by in terms of pace, Jim McGill, who is in 9th position, a 1:44.7.
Yep, and Rocco Horvath as well. I'm keeping a very close eye on him because he's made the moves. We can just see him there in the background as we're looking at Jim McGill right now. Jim, he's like a deck of cards, and he's just trying to be the ace of spades coming through the top deck. But Rocco Horvath is trying to be the ace of hearts, I think. He's pushing through. He's got a gap now, but have a look at this. And Antonio Reese under threat from Myra Haraski.
Once again, back and forth for the race lead. And this will be something we see all race long, especially with the nature of draft-oriented cars over this circuit. Haraski to the lead, locking up the brakes as well, pulling off a decent advantage as Arabian and Reese went side by side into the corner. That bottled it up and lost them about a full second. The reason I say that is, think for example of the Mazda MX-5s. They trade the lead a lot in 10 and 10B. We're seeing the same thing as drivers are starting to have some trouble. Coming out of the final quarter, several cars off into the sand trap. Jim
McGill and Frederic Richtig are both in the absolute sad zones right now. The poor Formula B having a little bit of an accident here as you come through, just looking at the car ahead of him. That's going to be Frederic in front, and they dip down to car number 252. Just a smidgen of contact, and boom, there it is. Oh,
slowed up into the corner entry, it looked like that time, and causes the contact. And Frederic Racedick said this to probably put this into perspective. Oh no, in the text chat in Sim. That kind of is probably the reaction from both of them here. Here's Jim McGill's viewpoint, and watch that slow up. Coming right after this bridge, right about here is where he just starts to lift off.
Jim, poor Jim, he really didn't have anything to do. He was very close, and you wouldn't be expecting him something like that to happen. I'm pretty sure Frederic is going to be very apologetic, because I think he knows in his heart of hearts he didn't mean to do that. It's just probably an issue with his hardware or something. Might have touched the brake pedal. But we're back at the front as Antonio Reese looks to try and make good, but under threat from Greg.
That is Stefani diving his way up the inside into the corner, taking away 3rd position. Antonio Reese now shuffled back to 4th in the span of just one straightaway. On the bright side for Haraski, having some breathing room, at least these next couple laps now. Had that 1.1 second advantage prior to the straightaway, is already down to 6/10, however. As you can see, because of the draft, with the clouds also coming over and above, the pace is picking up for those who have the slipstream. So in our words, Haraski could be in a tough spot, depending on how things fare out for some of these other cars. Rocco Horvath, we've seen the fastest lap come in, is already up to 9th, by the way, just 5 seconds back of this.
Yeah, he just needs to clear Leroy Coppage, who is going to be the lead of that pack of 8th position, and he needs to get past him and get it done quickly, and then move on towards the 2-second mountain in relative speaking for these cars to Thomas Renders, who is 2 seconds ahead of the car 916 of Leroy Coppage. You can see on your screens, this is going to be the car of number 14, Rocco Horvath, looking at the rear end of Leroy Coppage, the car 916.
You see Horvath better exit as Coppage joins the grass. Way to the grass is not the most efficient way to exit the corner, as you can tell, as that leads the 14 to move up to 8th position. He has already just about recovered his initial starting position, but as you mentioned, has the mountain of now 3 seconds to deal with. Florence Arabian, meanwhile, to the race lead once more, as they continue to trade the lead like changing a deck of cards just about for which card is pulled out of the stack. And as I was trying to say before that incident, that is just the nature of the draft, is down that straightaway, you'll see the lead change multiple times where you might not want to be the leader for the final lap.
And to come back to your analogy as well, it's not just the top of the deck, it's the middle of the deck and the bottom of the deck. Everybody's sort of shuffling around trying to get into the next position. Rocco Horvath is trying to do the literal impossible, I would have said, but Antonio Rees, by the way, he's now starting to really put in some great lap. That was a great lap by him. Last round was a 1:43.435, fastest so far of this session, and he's faster by Florence Arabian by 4/10, so he is not out of this one yet. And look at him, look how close he is. This is going to be a absolutely monumental battle.
This battle I'm expecting to be very busy in turn, absolutely. But the main thing to consider is we're just about 10 minutes into the race, and eventually we will see the pit strategy come into play. So how do you try and time that up, knowing you have to stay in this draft pack for one, and for two, if you put too much fuel or too little fuel, you either run out of gas if you put too little, or you lose the draft if you put too much.
That's a threat that we've actually seen play out quite often, as Antonio Rees on the outside, we're looking backwards at a car 64 and a car 914, and the car 64, oh my goodness gracious, got the legs on him on the inside coming up towards 10A. He's absolutely gunning him. The speed difference as a Florence Arabian is actually getting shuffled down into the third.
Florence Arabian quickly shuffled indeed. See how he tries to fare back. Thought about a move on. Antonio Rees pulls back and stays in third position, however. But get back to that thought process. Normally at some of the tracks, you may ride in the pack, save a little bit of fuel, go from there. But as we've seen today, that's not the easiest case, because say if you would like to stay behind somebody, guess what? 3 other drivers may say, okay, I'm going to pass you then.
That is a big thing of the Formula V Weekend Warriors, because that has happened so many times. It's happened at almost every race where somebody just wants to sit in front. They want to be, they're like in their position. They go to sleep for a split second, a sliver of a second. Everybody else around them is just going, I'll have first position, I'll have second position, I'll have third position. They'll be shuffled back to the back. And you can just see, you have to be alert, you have to be awake, you have to play the game, as it were. You have to play the shuffle game. Just hope that the shuffle comes up aces when your turn is up.
As one of the fans watching along for today, and I'm pretty sure they have an affiliation with one of the drivers today, says it's good being at the back of the train, because guess what? If you don't have the opportunity to make a move, you can just lift and coast, save a little bit, save that extra bit of gas in turn. But here's the concern with that. That last car, Neil Senkowski, for this group, just had all 3 fall back, all 3 now going 3 wide for the battle for 5th position, and just like that, that strategy chose the risk of it by losing 1.4 seconds in a lap.
And it also points out the fact that you need to have a good gap behind you before you can really sort of be the first class sort of car, where the first class would be the furthest car back, just having the best views of being able to make some moves when you can decide them. You know, if anything happens to the guys ahead of you, you've got plenty of gap, you've got plenty of movement, and just as we say that, movement again, Myro Haraski retaking the lead.
So the 64 seems to show that he wants to lead laps, especially after not getting any points last round. After some of the craziness there to open up the campaign. It's also worth noting the 213 of Gin has elected to come down to pit. So some are now coming down. Last time by, Jeff Cantoros came in, and that's not good.
And that is going to ruin and scupper his plans, because that is a scheduled pit stop, because the pit window is now open, but and I think he's put too much fuel in. He's missed his box and put too much fuel in. So he is going to have a little word with himself and try and figure out what went wrong, because that is 4 extra seconds, I'd imagine, that he shouldn't have been in there.
I was about to say a couple laps ago, Jeff Cantor had also elected to come on down. He was the car who was battling with David Davidson for position for some of that past few laps. Speaking of battling, Antonio Rees this time takes away the race lead. Haraski electing to ride on behind for the entry, nearly all the way to the gearbox, in fact. This whole train stretches 2.2 seconds back, meanwhile. Horvath has not gained a single tenth to this entire group. It's worth noting. Horvath, in turn, has elected to just come down to the pit lane this time by in the 14. So has Florence Arabian. So Horvath has elected to come on down and mix things up while Arabian tries to mix it up as well.
They're making good choices here, because the issues with sitting in a group is that you get stuck. You get stuck in the flow of the group. You have to match the pace of the group to be within the group. If you're a faster driver, and if you're stuck in the middle, but you get, overtaken by Slipstream, you're not going to actually be faster. You're going to be the same speed as everybody around you. So if you're a faster driver, as I would imagine both Florence Arabian and Rocco Horvath think to themselves, oh yeah, we're faster. And look at this.
Look at that. Look at that. Horvath has timed this up perfectly. 4 seconds less of fuel, Robert, to get up to Florence Arabian. Did Florence, though, forget to uncheck his tires? Did he take tires?
Oh, I think he did. I need to double check, but I think he might have accidentally done himself no favors by taking a set of tires. Oh dear, that's gonna put him in a big old pot of trouble, because it's new tires. It's not warm. It's not the tires that he's been used to. He'll have to essentially start from the start again and build up heat and build up usage on them tires. And you see these guys up ahead, they're probably absolutely smiling face to face about that, because they can now start putting in great laps, trying to see if they can work out something, get that train going, maybe, just maybe, start putting a gap between themselves and Forens, and upset Forens as they really is.
Here we go. Pit stops. Can confirm that Florence Arabian took front tires. He didn't put all 4 on. He just lifted onto the front jacks. So we'll have to see how taking fronts impacts the number 6 machine, as you see majority of the leaders coming down this time. Arabian and Horvath, meanwhile, have already made their way through the final corners of the track. There's the pit stop comparison. Horvath put up a 12-second stop. Arabian near 17 seconds. 12.4, so that tire mistake, in turn, seems to have costed Arabian 4 seconds.
And it's put Rocco Horvath in a great position, because Rocco now can start putting the pressure on Forens. Forens did not want this to happen, and now Rocco can essentially hold on to the rope and just tow along Forens. He's 12-second pit stop, so I would imagine he has enough fuel to go to the end, but now he's got that cushion. He's got that, okay, I have this cushion, let's try and capture some of Forens' speed, get to these guys and start turning this race around, because he has been very fast. He just needed that extra little leg, and he's now got it.
Speaking of extra little leg, how about Antonio Rees and his stop and all that? He took 1 second less of fuel too. So the 914 has built a bit of a buffer to the rest of the race leaders. Keep in mind, Sinkowski, Mayer, and Stefani, they are still chugging along with one of them coming in this time. That is Neil Sinkowski coming on in for his service. So Mayer and Stefani are the only drivers from the lead pack who have yet to pit.
And we just had Mayer and Stefani going at it between themselves as well. I think Stefani's trying to get a step on because he needs to be as ahead of everybody as possible. He needs clean air. He needs to be able to race as fast as he can, or as fast as he think he can. Try and get some benefits from it, because he would have seen everybody else taking to the pit stops, everybody else going around, they're all there doing their thing. He needs to get going. He needs to make a step in.
Taking a look at the times, right now 1:44.1 for Mayer, last time by 1:45.7 for Stefani. When it comes to Horvath and Arabian, 1:44.7 for Horvath, 1:45.1 for Arabian. So those times are going to be intriguing. Also, it was a 10.7 stop, as you see, for the 39. That has built him a buffer of about 2 seconds over Reese and David Davidson.
And Sinkowski's been putting in. He's been putting in great laps. He actually, not only that, he was the same time in the pit stall itself. So he was matching the Antonio Reese great pit stall time itself. But cone to cone, he was also just under 2 seconds faster. So he's leapfrogged nearly all of them.
And that's the important thing too, because guess what? That whole pack that was the initial race lead group is 4 seconds behind, and as we've seen, that is monumental to try and close up to.
And we just see as well, it's not just stopped this deckle shuffle of cards. The shuffling of cards is still happening even in between. We just see on screen Ria Coppage and Jeremy Lewis are coming into the pits. Coppage just coming into a stall. Now will he find it? Will he find it? Come on, Coppage.
I'm guessing he's taking this route where, yes, you can go to the pit stalls, technically. For this, he has found his lollipop person to be able to bring him in for service. So, Coppage now coming in for his fuel stop. Also, that's Jeremy Lewis right on behind in their respective stall. Pit stop time, longer though. 14.4, 13.1 for Lewis. Again, based on the numbers for the race leaders, they could have gone to as low as 11 seconds based on how far they went just past the halfway mark.
And how much they're willing to risk fuel as well, because, I'd imagine at about 10 seconds, you're really on the edge. You'd need to be very fast while also saving a tiny bit of fuel per lap to be able to snowball that into about a few hundred milliliters, which with these cars, they're not the biggest fuel tanks ever. The engine doesn't really need it, but over a lap, you can still save relatively good amounts of fuel and be quick as well, but you just need to be very clever where you save the fuel. And I think Sinkowski and Antonio Reese both have been doing well. We're looking at the battle for second and first.
Keep in mind, both of these cars who continue to go along here have an estimated 11 laps to go this time by. And in turn, they are still setting some of the fastest lap times on the track. Right now, compared to those who are leading some of the groups, they're running up to 2-3 tenths quicker than some who have already come in for their service in turn. So this is working out fairly well to the point where they're picking up more and more time from this overcut call. As we see Gradwell in.
Gradwell coming in, he's going to try and keep it nice and clean. There he is. Perfect parking, as always, from Tom Gradwell. He's always been a very good box sitter, and he just sits perfectly and neatly. And just so, oh, crikey, that's actually going to be Myra Haraski having a bit of a tussle with Thomas Renders and David Davidson. David Davidson, by the way, he still has to pit, so he's upsetting the apple cart. He can still race, of course, but Myra Haraski and Renders would want to get past them, and they have, but they're now battling for position. This is for position, and I'd say Myra Haraski is scratching his head going, where's the other two? How are they so far ahead?
Meanwhile, up towards the front, Mayer indicated you can move around. essentially to Stefani over the radio. So these two now electing to go for the swap. We'll see if that means the 308 might have to come down here. He has been the lead car out of these two for several laps, which can burn a little bit more fuel in theory.
But they're also being very clever because, well, Stefani and Mayer are kind of in a little bit of a truce right now where they don't want to fight each other. They just want to be, fighting each other is not going to benefit either of them because they're going to be fighting, they're going to be slower. They're not going to be faster lap over lap over the guys behind them. And looking at the lap times, if you take the aggregate between the two of them, I would imagine that you can just see these guys now they're racing. They are going to be faster than these guys on our screens.
That is Arabian making the dive around the outside. Lead car for this group is Thomas Renders. This is for net P3 currently, based on how some of the drivers have hit. And in turn, Horvath has put himself in the situation where he's now within this lead mixture, the net lead group. We've seen just a few car lanes up the road, about 3 seconds total is Setkowski and Reese, though. So these drivers have a lot of work to try and close up if they want any shot at getting to the 39 and the 914. And in turn, where the 75 and 308 cycle could determine which group is for the lead, which group is for third, which group, in turn, will be fighting for decent points.
And then we just see there, by the way, you can just see the two cars of Antonio Reese and Senkowski just in the distance of these guys as they're fighting through the S's. They're giving each other literally an inch, and that's about it. They're giving themselves the inch that they need to go fighting, but they're not giving each other much more. I just noticed as well, Niels Senkowski is actually slowing up a little bit as he's trying to, I think he's actually trying to conserve fuel against Antonio Reese. Antonio Reese is actually catching him at a breakneck pace. He caught him at just over 0.6 of a second a lap on that last lap just alone, and he is going for it.
Goes for the very late juke to the left side. Side by side for fourth position on track. Antonio Reese now takes the race lead, the Masters driver. Now just 27 seconds still behind Mayer and Stefani, who have continued for an additional lap. And here's the intriguing part with that too. I was about to mention there, Robert, the net time delta for majority of the drivers, 32, 33, 34 seconds. Is the gap even going to be enough for the 308 and 75 at this rate?
I don't think so. I really can't see if they've made enough of a gap. And you could just see Antonio Reese's last lap was 143.842. So he is looking like he wants to really start pushing it. And the two guys ahead, they haven't done anything like that over the last little while. And if they continue to battle, like look at this guy's back here, they're already slipping back to 4 seconds behind the lead two.
They're losing more and more time, oodles of it. Horvath was the quickest of the group with a 144 flat, but everyone else was in the 6s to 8s. That was all while Race reached that 143.8 bracket to take over that fourth position. He recalls over the radio, Stefani may be signaling for that as frustration starting to build up as well on said radio for Horvath as the 64 dives it underneath and sends it in.
Yeah, the gloves are off. They've pitted. They're gunning for it now. I think one of them has seen the writing on the wall that unless Antonio Reese and Niels Senkowski slow up dramatically, they're not going to be able to catch them. So they're fighting amongst themselves for position. The gloves are off. The truce has been laid away. And Rocco Horvath, look at him go!
3 wide for a position in 6th. Side by side, still as they come into the corner. Arabian clipped the grass, still held on to the traction though. Arabian moves up the spot. Horvath moves up to 7th position overall. Stefani and Flavio and Dawo in front of them have pit. Horvath, though, with the better exit off 10B. Goes underneath Arabian, takes away the 6th position once more.
And an excellent move there. He didn't get too flustered that Forens was able to hold ahead. He was, he kept his cool, kept his head, and just executed perfectly coming out on to 11. And just passed Arabian with such grace on that outside line or on the inside line, and just made it stick.
Here's the thing, too. Look at the pile-on. Stefani completed his service 11.8 seconds. Did not join up with the current net lead group. He cycled to the top of this second pack. So now, the urgency level going up a little bit more possibly after that stop. Simon Mayer is the only person in the entire field who has not pit so far.
And I think he's thinking to himself, oh, I have cooked the goose a bit too much. If he's not coming in this time by, I think he's just trying to stick to his timetable and then, recover from there. But he does look, oh no, he's sticking out. It's very odd.
This is the longest by far anyone's gone now, by at least a lap or two in turn, by the time he comes around next time. This is all while Reese and Setkowski stay stationed. Horvath and Arabian's pack, you see, down the hillside, did not stay stationary. And only gained a couple tenths of a second for their troubles, approaching 10 minutes to go on the clock. And you mentioned the gloves coming off. Eventually, these gloves are going to turn into boxing gloves, and we'll see almost a boxing match for some of these positions, which in turn could be, in a lot of these cases, for the podium, and for these two, for the win.
And Setkowski is saving fuel. I think he just ever so slightly underfueled, and he's just sticking behind station because there's no point trying to overtake Antonio Reese, because Antonio Reese is going to take him back over. So the slipping and sliding of leapfrogging each other constantly, it's not going to work, and it's going to be the detriment of them, because we've seen it before. Rocco Horvath and that group, from fourth down to 7th, the four of them have been battling. They lost time to the guys in second and third. Simon Mayer, he's staying out. He should be going in, trying to get some slipstream, trying to work over from some positions. Because right now he's losing positions on the track outright because of his pace has dropped off to 145 territory. But the gap there, that's 3.2 seconds of a gap, and if they are not careful, it can grow bigger if Antonio Reese and Niels Setkowski continue to putting in good laps.
Here comes the swap trap once more. Arabian and Horvath switching at the front, and look at the pace differential between this pack's lead car now in Arabian and Mayer. 1.6 seconds gain last time by, and that's just the impact of the draft as Mayer has ducked down. That's why you see the 150 come in. We'll see where Mayer cycles. Remember, Stefani cycled in this pack and was immediately swallowed up by the entire field. Mayer now in for his service. Leaders now making their way past his pit box, however. This will not cycle him to the lead. This will not cycle him into the battle for third. He will actually fall behind this entire pack, so stretching the longest out of anybody has cost him a top 6.
And it's cost him just over 3 seconds. And I just saw Setkowski. He's actually gone up into first position. You said the gloves? You said the gloves would come off and they go into boxing gloves. The boxing gloves didn't come out. He just went one singular move and said, all right, Reese, I'm back focused. Let's go racing.
Setkowski now comfortable up at the point. 5.5 estimated laps to go with 9 minutes under on the clock. Antonio Reese looking for a major victory after coming so close last round. While Setkowski looking to try and score victory to help his points totals after securing decent amounts of them in the opening race. Here comes Reese. Late move again to the left side. Side by side for the race lead.
Antonio Reese needs to hold station there. Coming into the final team turn into 10A, and just he was holding it very sort of in the middle. He was not giving that much of a gap, but he was holding sort of in the middle of the road, where it's kind of weird to see a car like this hold in the middle of the road for 10A and B, but he did actually benefit from it because, well, I say that.
Yeah, they are not done yet, and here's my concern, Robert. Notice this on the entry of the last corner. That interval is going down. They pass by a red car, meanwhile, as they'll continue to chug along with no infiltration from Russ Lundberg, as that gap has reduced from the pack since these two started fighting again by a full second.
And that's a dangerous, dangerous thing. If they continue to lose time, they have been lapping 144.5s. Lawrence Arabian, that last lap, did a 143.8, and that was near enough to his fastest lap. So I'm pretty sure they're thinking to themselves, oh, we need to actually start get going, otherwise we're going to be in this group, and that is going to be essentially first through to 6 battle. That's a top 6 battle coming into the final moments of the race.
Coming up to 4 estimated laps to go with under 7 minutes on the clock. Gap between first and third still 2.4 seconds. Here is a look at that train, and the fighting has stopped for them. They have now seen the eye of the prize in front for now. That changes though with Horvath leading the swap draft, but Stefani wants to take it 3 wide. 3 wide for third position. Down the straightaway into 10A and 10B once more. Reese takes the point in front of them, while Stefani takes the third position. Now the gap is under 2 seconds entering the braking zone.
I think Sinkowski and Reese are praying to themselves, but as a pair, that this battle continues because Florence Arabian getting shuffled down into the side-by-side action. We see Greg Stefani and Rocco Horvath. Rocco Horvath going up into third side-by-side. Oh, and the gloves are really off. They're going into boxing gloves.
Here it goes, Arabian again up to third position. That might have not been the best strategy, though, because Senkowski elected a save, and they cost themselves 5/10 with that pass.
And already, we can now see that it's not just the 10A, 10B that they have to worry about. People are coming back and getting past them on turn 1. That draft down a hill and that pass around the outside, it is lethal for these cars if they can execute it very well. And just Farns just surgically trying to stamp, his seal of authority on that third position. Rocco Horvath is fighting back continuously.
Well, Horvath called his shot earlier before this race after he missed the starting grid, saying, "Don't worry, you'll see me back here soon enough." Guess what? He's fighting for the podium after that mistake before today. This is all while Setkowski and Reese are swapping once more with under 5 minutes to go on the clock. Move the 39 up to the race lead. Horvath and Rasky are swapping in the second pack as well. So, I was about to say, as long as these two in front don't run out of gas, they seem to be home free because of all the squabbling.
Just to note as well, that is Florence Arabian down 2 positions. Does he come back again? These guys are trying to go side by side coming into 12. It's not going to do him any good because, look, that purple car, Florence Arabian, is still there. He's still going to push their buttons and push them in the correct way so that he can get into third position again. Look at it, crowding out. Florence Arabian is slowing every single one of them down.
They've lost a little bit more time once more with that fighting. Horvath still stays within 2.5 seconds of the lead, though needs to close up a second as one car has a drift. There goes the 64, Haraski to the back of the line as a result of the mistakes in the S's.
And I think that is going to be a critical moment for Haraski because it is going to wake him up, because he definitely had it in the pocket, and now that he's made that mistake, he's lucky that it wasn't a complete spin around, but that little slide does give him perspective. He's going to start gunning for position quite ferociously, if that's a word I can use. Ferociously. He's going to try and push it. He's going to try and push it very hard now that he has seen that mistakes can happen, as we can see the top 6.
And Horvath is just outside the range of the draft of the top 2. They need to push hard because it's down to the final 3 minutes. Setkowski is now back to the race lead. Rees rides on behind into the corner, all while Horvath stays in third position overall. Stefani, Arabian, Haraski amongst those shuffling about right on behind. 2 estimated laps to go this time by under 3 minutes on the clock.
And with that 3 minutes left, or less than 3 minutes left on the clock now, these guys are starting to... Oh, well, they haven't started. They already have. Antonio Reis and Senkowski, again, switching positions. But the guys behind them, I really am going to keep my eyes glued to that group of 4, because with just coming up to 2 minutes to go now, the last lap has always been exceptionally exciting for when we have groups like this in the Formula V's. Who's going to shuffle and who's going to come on top of the deck and who's going to be on the bottom of the deck?
Kowski dropped back to 4/10 behind Reis, coming up the hillside through the S's. All while Arabian gets shuffled to the back end of the train for 3rd spot. Horvath now leads that entire grouping as he tries to hold on to a podium position in what would be the drive of the day after starting from the pit lane 6 seconds back of the lead pack. He remains just 2 seconds or so behind the overall lead. Senkowski stays 4/10 back down the straightaway this time, approaching 90 seconds left. Horvath, though, has no friends. No one goes with him. To the right side goes Haransky and Stefani to try and drive on by the number 14 car. Stefani jumps up to 3rd. Haransky jumps up to 4th position with the move, as they should see the white flag this time, down to 1 minute and 10 seconds on the clock.
And Florence Arabian, look at him. He's in 6th position. He's in the wrong place right now. At this very moment, he needs to be at least where in 5th position Horvath is. He needs to be right where Horvath is right now to be able to sort of guarantee that he can gain another position. And look at this side-by-side action between Haransky and Horvath.
Horvath wanting to battle now on the left side, entering the first turn. All scrapping about for 4th position. Stefani holding on to 3rd position. The focus for them, the final step of the podium. The leaders have ran away an additional 6/10 the past 3 laps. But the question is, will it be Reis or will it be Senkowski? The timing could be critical down the final straightaway.
Senkowski needs to have a good gap so that he can gain enough speed to be able to carry through into 10A. He needs to line it up just right. He can't just be hugging Reis through these last few corners here to 6 and 7. And just look at him. He's just got a nice little run up from number 7 into 8 now. He is gaining speed. The slipstream is coming into effect.
Here he goes. Last lap from Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. Senkowski trying to build up the run. 95 miles an hour approach down the middle of the straightaway. Reis tries to defend to the right. Senkowski goes to the left. Side by side for the race lead into the final corners. Senkowski makes the pass. Reis watches behind. Senkowski makes it. Crash on behind for the battle for 3rd. Arabian jumps up to the final podium spot. Senkowski defends to the right through the final corner. Reis tries to get the run to the left side. It's not going to be enough. Neil Senkowski wins it at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta in a photo finish.
And Florence Arabian comes out on top. I think if we can get a replay on that battle for a 3rd position, you can just see, and just Flavio Andola running out your top 10, by the way, and doing it nice and neat. Perfect from him. He did have a few issues at the start, but he's at least back in the top 10. And we could just, if we can just see now, this battle for 3rd, it just went into a climax as Florence Arabian coming around the inside line, or the outside line, coming up into just contact. Oh!
4 wide in a 3-lane racetrack is not the smartest of strategies. On the last lap even, especially if you're battling for a championship. Rocco Horvath got the worst of it, and he, in turn, ends up with significant damage after rolling his lane into the pit lane, coming to the checkered. But it's Neil Senkowski who takes home the checker flag today. The interval at the checker flag, 0.068 over Antonio Reis. With that, we'll take a quick break. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. You're watching Weekend Warriors action in the Formula V's on GSRC. Welcome back to GSRC's coverage of Formula V Weekend Warriors action presented by 42 Stitches. Check them out at 42stitches.com and let them put together a package especially for you. Neil Sankowski came away with a victory today after taking the shortest pit stop out of anybody in the field. He elected to ride to the back of the pack in the first part of the race. It worked out for him, winning by 6/100ths over Antonio Reese. Orange Arabian rounds out the podium positions. He ended up surviving a chaotic final lap for the second pack, beating Greg Stefani by 0.6 of a second. Drew Horaski comes home in the 5th position. Thomas Renders in 6th, Simon Mayer in 7th, Tom Gradwell, Flavio Endolo, Alon Katenga quietly coming home with the edge of the top 10, Robert.
And then in the top 20 is going to be Jeremy Lewis in 11th. And Rocco Horvath had 12 incident points, and because of that was not able to serve it. And that last lap he got it and pushed him all the way down into 12th after doing so well. The last lap incident cost him 8 positions. Ishan Gin in 13th, David Davidson in 14th, Leroy Coppage in 15th, Jeff Kanzer in 16th. I think we saw the end of the result of what happened to Russ Lundberg. He had an accident coming into turn 1 and couldn't get it back together. Frederic and Jim McGill, we both saw what had happened to them. Unfortunate incident there between them, 18th and 19th, and John Nielsen did not take to the grid.
Let's walk top to bottom at your running order for today's race for the Weekend Warriors in their Formula Vs. But Neil Sankowski coming away with the victory today by just 6/100ths of a second over Antonio Reese. And first things first, Niels, congratulations on the victory. Talk us through your final laps trying to set things up, knowing how important being the second or even third place car in that line could slingshot you to the race lead coming to the checkered.
Yeah, thanks first of all. And I was basically just sitting behind Antonio for a few laps until I saw that the guys from third on back went faster than us. So then we just started slingshotting around each other, which apparently was the faster way. And yeah, then we could go into the last lap with like a 2.5 second gap, or the second to last lap. And that was when I decided to just stay behind Antonio and go for the run on the final back straight to get the lead and the win.
Now, part of the strategy, too, was you were amongst those drivers hanging around the back of the lead pack, and interestingly enough, and I'm wondering the affiliation with yourself with this, during the broadcast itself, on the YouTube side of things, one of the people watching with Nielski as their YouTube name mentioned good spot in train being last. Part 1 a question, was that you? Part of 2, was that your call to try and stretch it out and save that fuel so you had the quickest stop out of anybody?
That was me, yes. And I wasn't really planning on being dead last in that train, but a couple people overtook me, so I just went with being last in that train for a few laps, and yeah, just saved a bit of fuel lifting early. And there was a couple times when we almost lost the draft to the front 4 or something, and I went in front to close back up. But yeah, I think fuel saving was also pretty good strategy, because after the pit stop, obviously it was just Antonio and me, and the rest of the guys further behind.
So in turn, good points day overall, getting the victory today. Next race, scheduled for Oran Park. Your thoughts on that one after seeing how things broke down today at 2 draft-heavy tracks?
Probably a bit more fun to actually race in this car, because you don't just sit in a train and draft past each other on the straights. But I'm not gonna be there next week, so unfortunately I'm gonna miss out on that. Otherwise, Oran Park, great track.
Unfortunate to hear, but on that note, who do you want to thank for your run today?
Obviously, thanks to the team. The 39 VB car was amazing today. The sky was nice and blue, so it was a good day for racing. And yeah, thanks to my family, thanks to my stream chat for getting me where I am.
Congratulations once again on the victory today, Niels.
Thanks.
Niels Sankowski coming away with the victory today. Started in 7th position, and in some cases, you can try and type in chat and race at the same time in his case today without having an incident. But it was Antonio Reese who came home in second today. Back-to-back races in that regard. He's with Robert O'Brien.
Antonio Reese, pleasure to talk to you as always. And another great second position out there. Well done to you. How did you feel?
Hey, good night, guys. Good night, everyone. Thank you. How feels good. I still try to make a photo finish the last week, but it didn't work.
You did very well. You did very well this time, though. You were very competitive in terms of trying to get into that P1 position and try and get that lead. Were you surprised at how far ahead you were of the guys behind you when you did come out of the pits?
I was a little kind of lost. I really didn't know anything when I get out of the pits. The guys was talking on the Discord about this position, and Niels was already not yet pit, and I was kind of wondering yes or not. I'm not sure, but I didn't know until the very last laps that he was not going to pit again. So I just was, kind to try to win, but didn't work. He did well. He could really manage well that last lap, keeping behind me and passing me on the last straight and get advantage. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is the second time you've come into second place, and you were pretty great today. From my own perspective, you were doing very well today.
Thank you, sir.
So is this good grounds for you to start pushing for that lead in the Masters category?
Well, I kind of just enjoy racing. I don't think too much about master, or just of course I still keep an eye on the guys with the 900 numbers, and today was a little less. I think it was only two of us, right? Me and Tom, I suppose. So I was kind of just enjoying racing, kind of keeping it battling and trying to be as fast as you can. Yeah, it was the main spirit for me.
Before we let you go, do you have any thanks or shout-outs you'd like to give?
Sure. As as always, to the Steve Ray, he's the father of the league, and for the sponsors, the 42 Stitches, and for you guys for being broadcasting is always nice. I always watch. Sometimes I watch more than one time. And for the guys racing, it was 20 today, I suppose. And for the people watching, thanks all.
Thank you very much, Antonio Reese. Congratulations on your second place. Hope to see you next week.
Thank you. Yeah, hope to see you too. See you. Bye.
Once again, that was Antonio Reese coming home in second on the podium today. Just behind him was Greg Stefani, who ended up surviving the 4 wide for third position. Greg, talk us through your viewpoint. You came away 4th overall, but had to work for it by surviving a 4 wide crash on the final lap.
Yeah, I realized coming to the white flag that I really had gone too early. I wasn't really happy to put myself at the front of that group, but I knew going down the back straight, I just needed to stay clean and hope for the best. And look, I got lucky with dodging Miro when he came across. That was pretty close.
Yeah, it was a very tight fight, but talk us through as well the strategy that got you there, because you were among 2 drivers who really pushed it far. What were your mindsets like trying to push with Mayer to break away, if you could, up at the front of the field? He eventually, keep in mind, the driver you were working with came home in 7th.
Yeah, so I was originally going to pit when Ferenz did, but usually I don't go into the pit when the driver right in front of me does. So I kind of had to dodge back out of the pit entry. And then after that, people just kept going in front of me, and I figured, I'll keep it going. And then Simon's usually good to work with, and we seemed to be working together reasonably well. Weren't losing much time, so at that point it was just stay out for a while.
Next race, Orem Park. Your thoughts on that race?
I'm okay at Oran Park, but I'm not going to be able to make the next 2 weekends. So good luck to everyone else, and hope you guys have fun races.
Second person we've spoken to who has that situation. But anyone you want to thank on your run today?
Just thanks to my family for supporting me in this, and to Gleaners Food Banks of Indiana for supporting local racing.
Congratulations on the top 5, Greg.
Thank you.
Greg Stefani came home in 4th position today, and it's worth noting that Thomas Renders came home in 6th position. Believe he may be standing by as well in this regard, as he came away with a decent finish in this race, but ended up losing touch to the lead draft after a mistake, Robert, in 10A and 10B. That cost him a couple seconds. He still comes away with 6th, Robert.
Indeed he does, and Thomas is with us. Thomas, good result for 6th position, but you were kind of crowded out at certain stages. Take us through it.
Yeah, I think the race was really nice. I had a lot of fun. I just had one little brain fart. I think at 2/3 of the race, I decided to shift down to 2nd into the chicane, and my rear started turning too much because of that. But I managed to save it, and I managed to go on. Luckily, I don't know what happened with Simon into the pit stops, but because he was he lost some time there, I think, and I was able to have a good fight with him, and the last lap was just incredible. It was like a cycling race with the draft playing game and stuff like that.
And that draft as well, you definitely were doing your best to keep up with the guys, but how hard was it to sort of know that the draft was still, you still had draft, but people could still get back at you if they really wanted to, into turn 1 and even through the S's in one occasion.
Yeah, it was actually quite hard, because in a group of about 5 to 6 cars, it is just a big drafting train, and yeah, you can't really gain on the car in front of you, and you're kind of stuck in the position you're in the train. So it was pretty hard, but the front cars were battling, and because of that, the pace was a bit slower than they could have done, I think. And yeah, people managed to get back because of that, I think. But it's still, in races like that, it's just a waiting game until the last couple of laps, I think, because and of course managed to keep safe, not like I did today. So yeah, it's good fun. I like drafting races.
Perfect. And just before we let you go, any shoutouts or thanks you'd like to give?
Yeah, of course, to the organizers again, and to the broadcasters. I always want to thank you, because I just love watching ourselves back.
Pleasure as always, Thomas. We hope to see you next week, though, and we hope that you have the great rest of your weekend.
Yes, thank you. You too.
That was Thomas Renders, who finished in 6th place today. I'd like to thank him, Greg Stefani, Tony Reese, and Neil Sankowski for taking the time to speak with us for post-race coverage here on the Global SimRacing Channel. And I turn to you, Robert, as that race was a bit intriguing, because you had the importance of the lead group, and that pace showed early on, but in the end, execution was key if you wanted to win the race, and the top 2 were the best to execute on pit road, and in turn had 2 of the quickest stops all day, while others like Arabian made mistakes such as taking tires, which cost them the chance for the win in turn when you think about it, because for Arabian, he took 4 seconds longer in the stops with the tires. Guess how much he fell behind? More than 3 seconds.
And even, when we discussed that as well, it was post that as well. He could have tried catching up to the guys ahead of him. However, with the battle that he was stuck in because of that mistake, it really did seal the deal for him, because there was the threat with 2 to 3 laps to go that they could just maybe get to the back of Neil Stankowski and Antonio Reese and then try and close it out. But unfortunately, the battle for 3rd to 6th really did cost him. He did make it up in the end, but what could have been?
Indeed, it in turn, the points definitely going to take a bit of a shuffling after today's race. But on that note, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for today's exciting action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. well as the organizers for the Weekend Warriors Formula V Series. I'd also like to take the time to thank the title sponsor for this series, 42 Stitches. Check them out at 42stitches.com and let them put together a package especially for you. I'd also like to take the time to thank the companies that provide our software and hardware for a broadcast listed up on your screen. Special thanks go to Jude Lawn, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today in Rob, Joe, and Dougie. You can find more information about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description, the YouTube edition of our broadcast below. Don't forget to subscribe to said YouTube page as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race as talked about with our drivers goes to Oran Park. That will take place Saturday, October the 2nd. Coverage starts at approximately 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to tune in for what's expected to be an exciting one from Australia. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on screen, so check those out and mark them down your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.